Hello and welcome to tonight's edition of Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight, commentator and economist Jargal Defacto.
Good
Welcome.
evening.
And I am Milena Mendes. We are live on Facebook at V Television, and we love to hear your thoughts. So on Twitter, send us your comments with #Jargal_Defacto. Coming up on the show tonight. Mining and Heavy Industry Minister decries a recent remark against the Oyu Tolgoi mine. The president of the Bank of Mongolia reports good news from the asset quality review. The Hurulsuk cabinet officially cancels power plant number 5. Companies see investment opportunities in Mongolia's air-pocalypse. We start talking about the Minister of Mining rejecting the alleged opposition to the Oyu Tolgoi copper gold mine by a deputy minister gone rogue, saying it is not the ministry position to intervene with the mine, Monsam reported. Mining and Heavy Industry Minister Sumia Bazar was speaking at an aborted press conference this week, where, according to Gogo News, Deputy Minister Dzagjav intended to speak out against the Oyu Tolgoi project as he feels it is not giving enough benefits to the people of Mongolia. No reasons were given by Deputy Minister Dzagjav as to why the press conference was cancelled, and he has not commented the issue ever since. Quote, "I want to make it clear that it's not the position of the ministry, not the government," unquote, said Sumia Bazar, adding that the government would face the consequences with being left with the 8.4% interest on loans taken out of the mine if it threatens the stability of the project. He added that he would ask the deputy minister for his resignation if he spoke outside of the ministry's official position again. So, Jargal, we start with this issue, and why bring up Oyu Tolgoi right now if the economy is just picking up?
Well, I consider into two pieces that information about the controversy of minister and deputy minister statements. First of all, it is about the position of deputy minister in Mongolia. Well, originally, deputy minister position was not in the structure of the cabinet. There was a position called, there is also a state secretary, which is regarded to be non-political positions, and even the government changed it, minister changed the state secretaries to stay there, which unfortunately is not case. They keep changing him, and then with that change they have brought the position of deputy minister, which is still a lot criticized by observers. But however, this position is, to me, this position is mostly to the people who had donated large lump sum to their political parties, and probably those are not the most to the highest rank so that they can be a minister. Yeah. So probably it's kind of a position that they're kind of buying in the case of some deputy ministers. Of course, what I'm saying is backed by many newspapers, informations in Mongolian media. And the third here is until Mongolian public controls the political party financing and make them accountable and transparent, this country is going to have this sort of deputy ministers a lot, and this sort of statements that completely different than the official, as the minister Sumia Bazar said, of the minister and of the cabinet. It's a very unfortunate controversy of governance quality of Mongolia. Okay, first. Secondly, about Oyu Tolgoi. Oyu Tolgoi problem started when the Mongolia had agreed to own 34% and invest into the project to 34%. And as a result, Mongolia, instead of receiving any profit from that, now we keep receiving only more debt. We are into coming deeper into the foreign debt. And according to Minister Sumaya Bazar, OT, borrowing money, that they have borrowed money with 3 plus some percent. Now they are charging the government with 6 plus interest rate. That's what they, according to the minister. If it is the case, it sounds not very just, okay, at least. Second, recently the president had talked about replacing 3 board members from government, Mongolian side on the board of OT. And the minister Sumaya Bazar said they are working very weak. So what all this together mean, what does it mean is still the government has a lot of reservations on the so-called Dubai contract, which was the underground mining agreement of OT, which was signed a few years ago by, 2 years ago by Minister Sakhan Bilek. Now it's already 3 years. Minister Sakhan Bilek. No, actually it was signed by the officials of Mongol, Irtnis Mongol, and it's Oyu Tolgoi, Mongolia, Irtnis Oyu Tolgoi. These 2 heads have signed actually the contract. The Prime Minister Sakhan Bilek was there, his presence was there, he was there at the signing of the contract. And the people until now are blaming Prime Minister Sakhan Bilek, ex-Prime Minister Sakhan Bilek, for signing the contract without consent of Parliament and government, because there were certain points of disagreement on the cost of operational cost expenses that OT was submitting to the Mongolian government. That was over, but the total $4.7 billion were accepted, from which about $1 billion was not accepted by the government. So still this government, previous government and this government still have some reservations on this Dubai contract, and under that agreement this whole conversation goes out. That's, I think, the Deputy Minister Zagdajav had in mind mostly. But there are things, of course, for my conclusion is, first, of course, there is some things that it is to be improved in OT project, OT agreement. But however, we should note that OT is the largest and only successfully going project in this country, which makes a lot revenue to the state budget. So having all these things in mind, I think it should have the 2 sides should plan to agree when to discuss the points where they have different opinions. That's all.
Exactly. So that actually brings up my next question to you. Do you think the Deputy Minister's position reflects any other personal feelings inside the cabinet?
I don't exclude that, because this sort of deputy ministers, as I said, people, I think not only in this ministry, in many other ministries, feeling also this sort of personal sentiment that now they are deputy, and yet they are very important people in their own political party, which shows that how much politicized just the executive power of this country. Instead, they should be just implementing whatever the minister decides to do so, right? Which is not the case. It is just one of small part of big conflicts on the surface of Mongolian governance. But if you go deep into, again, you come to the issue of party financing. It's that money talks, that's all.
Right. I'd like to remind you that we're live on Facebook, and also we want to hear your thoughts. So as we're talking here, send us your comments on Twitter using #jargle_defacto. And moving on, Mongolia's banks are passing a credit risk evaluation well, according to the central bank president, GoGo News reported. The Asset Quality Review, AQR, launched as part of the International Monetary Fund's $5.5 billion bailout, is already complete for 2016, Bank of Mongolia President Bayard Saikhan guarantees, and is now heading towards 2017, as banks are expected to submit annual reports by February. Quote, 2016 was a difficult year for the nation's economy. Despite doing the AQR during such times, there were encouraging results, end quote. Bayert was quoted on Thursday. A positive conclusion of the evaluation could help to restore confidence in a market that has suffered from a decline in foreign investment. Drago, please help explaining to our viewers what the asset quality review is for and what the outcome might lead to.
Well, this asset quality review was made upon the agreement with IMF. Conditionality, because it comes with this package that they will check their banking sector health. So they have made tender, and they got I think one of these three major accounting company to make a review, which they have completed, which they have given to the central bank. And what now the central bank governor Bayert says that this whole review was made for the period to the end of 2016. That he said also that the in general review was good. There is not a risk in this banking sector, and now also he said that he will now adjust that. Interesting words he used. He will adjust that review, quality review for 2016. With the statistics of banking statistics of 2017, okay? So because it's 1 year complete after that, the financial year, so they will see the quality of assets, what happened in the year 2017. And he said that also there is a need to increase on equity of these commercial banks. And the commercial banks will be given, some commercial banks will be given 6-month period to increase their own quality, the on equity of the bank. We call also charter fund on equity. And after 6 months, if they will not increase equity, then they need to enforcefully to increase that equity. It is probably merger and acquisition or some other enforceful measurements. And he said after that, the Mongol bank will do stress test, which sounds interesting, at least new for our banking sector,
right.
Which means that Mongol bank will test each bank how they will deal with risk, potential economic crisis. If the economy changes, employment changes, what the bank can, if their asset quality goes down, the bad loans start to increase, how much they can tolerate. So this is, I think, good test anyway. So that's what he will do, he said. And along with that, Mongolia had adopted now last week also new central bank law. Central bank law, there was law, but it was now changed.
Renewed.
And one substantial part in that change is stabilization fund of banks, which is quite controversial stuff because they now according to this new law, every commercial bank will give 1.5 of the whole savings money to the central bank, to the central fund, stabilization fund, to solve the problems if any risk comes with any of the commercial banks, which unfortunately increases the cost of commercial banks, because commercial banks, we have deposit insurance corporation even in Mongolia, and that deposit insurance corporation made 3 years ago, and you pay certain fee at the beginning, then every quarter you pay 0.125% of your savings also to that fund, so that in case of bankruptcy of a commercial bank, up to 20 million tugriks of savings will be guaranteed for who has the 7 deposits, who had the 7 deposits in that commercial bank, which is bankrupted. And plus, every bank has, according to the Mongol bank law, banks should have also required reserve money, which is about 12% of every collected money should be in a special account in the central bank. You see, 12% the deposit insurance company fee, and now its new stabilization fund fee, altogether increases commercial banks' operating cost expenses, which is reflected in an increase of saving rate. And the saving rate is so high without that. So I don't think it's a very good news for banking businesses, and unfortunately, and interesting thing, our governor said, "Oh, there's no risk." You know, I think he's become more political in that sense, because I remember when he became president of the Mongol Bank, governor, he immediately said, "Oh, Mongol Bank has no reserve," which immediately, by the way, almost true, because they made the reserve from the borrowed money from the swap with China Central Bank. So now he's very cautious, and he's saying, "Oh, there's no risk, you know, everything is fine." But if it is so fine, why they would change all this? They will stress test, and they will demand, or they will require banks increase their equity, and plus why they would change this Mongol bank law itself. So I don't think it's a completely no risk business.
So since it's not a complete, what do you think that can be improved in the banking sector in Mongolia?
It's mostly the issue of central bank independence from the state.
From the state.
Which is not the case, which was not the case at all. And the current governor is trying to make the case, but it is not that easy, because the country, the government is in a big debt. Now they are not borrowing from the central bank because they are receiving money from IMF. But it doesn't mean IMF-related projects, but it doesn't mean that the money will be never ended. But we need discipline in our budget, because our budget, for example, deficit is, it was at the level of 10% of GDP, that big. Now it's becoming slowly to 9%, and they are keep increasing because they are borrowing cheaper money from other foreign sources, thanks to IMF and the World Bank and ADB. But however, it doesn't mean that the central bank to be very close to the government. Vice versa, central bank to be completely independent, and hopefully this is the case. That's what he's trying to make the new governor.
Thank you for input. Let's see where this is going to go. And we're moving on to our next topic. The government has pulled the plug on the planned combined heat and power plant number 5 project, which was meant to secure the energy grid that powers the whole country. The government will go ahead with upgrading power plants number 3 and 4 instead of building that 450 megawatt facility, which was in planning since 2011. The project suffered from constant indecision about location, design, before falling completely out of the government's agenda when the Mongolian People's Party took power in 2016. French state-owned ENGIE was partnered with Newcom, POSCO Energy and Sogjet to build a power generator with a small footprint on the environment. Now my question is, should this raise some concerns about energy security going forward? This grid is already reportedly quite taxed.
Not only. This project, unfortunately, this decisions to cancel the project is showing how inefficient is the Mongolian government in general for the last 20 years. This generator, we call it power station number 5, it's a unique project where the government talked for 20 years, and they made laying the ground ceremony for power 10 times in 10 locations, and at the end they have canceled. What does it show? It shows inefficiency, this not decisive decisions of the government, and it shows also how irresponsible they do and how they are destroying our reputation in front of many foreign companies, including this large company from France. You said ENGIE, new name, otherwise it was JDF, Swiss. Also Japanese, it's French company, Japanese company Sojitz, Korean company POSCO Energy, and Mongolian company Newcom. Their consortium had been working on the project for spent millions of dollars on the project, and at the end they said it's canceled. It's first. Second, we lost time value we should consider, and we have lost the time because now almost AAA large banks are not going to finance any coal power projects because due to the Paris Agreement, because there's all the carbon requirement, etc. So now we have, okay, this one is cancelled, but we have another project. We need a coal bed power station in Tavan-Talre, because also Oyu-Talre need electricity, and they are importing from China, and they're paying about 150 or to 200 million US dollar every year for power import from China, which could be produced in Mongolia, in particular at the Tavan-Talre, in between them about certain 200 or so kilometer distance. And it could be, if it is done on time, it could be already good money, already saving the money paying to China. So it is very unfortunate with this Tavan-Talre stations, power station number 5. But we do expect either Tavan-Talre will make all the power stations. If they don't do it, I think Oyu-Talre has to do own power stations for pure economic purpose, because for long run you cannot pay that cash every year for import. The other thing, the recently government announced also cancellation of the project called Sainshan Industrial Project. Oh, about this project we have been talking another 15 years. Nothing is done, no water, no railroad there, no power, and yet they have been discussing it and washing brain for many people for quite some time, and they have finally cancelled. So these two cancellation shows what? They show inefficiency of the Mongolian government, in particular the incapacity of planning, doing proper feasibility study that is supported by professionals, third party, and bankers. So this kind of mismanagement is happening, unfortunately, in Mongolia today.
You know what? Environmentalists are probably celebrating this because they would rather prefer Mongolia take the path of renewable energy anyway. So what is your position?
Well, renewable energy, yeah, of course, this is the future. Solar power, solar and wind power, it's important, yes. But it takes quite more investment, and the price they are demanding will be more at the level of at least coal. It is more expensive than coal. So the country needs to buy them, to make a commitment to buy that energy at a certain level, which is not economic for the economy. It is you buy things way lower than their cost. So we need to consider on one side. On the other side, of course, it is air pollution issue, carbon issue, and that carbon issue can be, if it's in Tavan-Talre, could impact our neighbors as well. So it is not that easy to tell that we will not use coal. And only the rational use of coal is an issue in Ulaanbaatar city, where we have really serious air pollution nowadays. So it is also rationals, but with the better technology, the more trends are there to use more solar and power farms in Mongolia.
Thank you. And we have to move on to our last topic of the night. Clean air is the hot new commodity in Mongolia, as air purifiers have become a new favorite purchase among Mongolia's consumers, according to the military-technologies.net website. Consumer electronic companies are tackling the choking air pollution from the coal burned by some residents in Ulaanbaatar to stay warm by supplying with cheaply priced air purifiers, according to a report from Energy and Natural Resources Market Reports published on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Mongolian construction sector is expanding, giving way to larger demand for heating, venting, and cooling products. So what do you think about this as an investment for small business?
Well, it's a good start first, but it is not that easy start, because at the end, people need that coal at the current conditions of infrastructure, housing, because more than half of about 200,000 families are living in Gate district, where they had to heat the Gate with coal. They tried also with the night free electricity provided by the state. But what happened was, when they switch off, where they switch on the heating, and they don't use the stove for coal, then during the night heating is there, but in the morning the heating will be stopped, because it will not be free anymore at 6 o'clock, okay, in the morning. Then they need to heat back with the coal, right? Mm-hmm. Then when it started to heat the coal, new one, it's because it's already cold, right?
Right.
Then this coal makes so much carbon, CO2, so that it is explosive, kind of more black smoke comes to the city, which otherwise before it was disseminated slowly by day, and then from 12 to 4 it was okay. Mm-hmm. Before, because before, without this power at night, free power, they were not using heating, it was too expensive. They were using coal, but so that they just keep the fire, not make it dying. Mm-hmm. So with that slow keeping, they did not need to heat the fire in the morning again, which kept the air pollution at certain level.
Kind of constant.
Constant. Mm-hmm. Then now it is coming one strong, one very high, and that stays. That's the reason why we have this year, in spite of free power, electricity power, we had even more air pollution. So in that context, the attempt of these young people, I saw some of them, and it's a very good attempt, and I wish them good luck.
And do you think the government should not get involved with subsidies and other assistance, since this is such a large-scale health hazard?
Yeah, I don't like government subsidies at all, because under the subsidies they destroy the ordinary regulation of market, which mostly is regulated by the people, by the consumers. Consumers, high price, don't like it. They decrease the consumption, and the suppliers need to go to decrease the price. So that's what's happening now with fuel these days, and probably this country is going to have some problem with fuel supply in the near future, because it was kept by the state at the artificial price, and they were just regulated with excise taxes, up and down. Now they increase the taxes. Even with the fuel price, international price comes up, they have increased tax as well. So it made the gasoline importers no profit. Now even they go with losses, and they cannot go with a lot losses. Either when it's controlled, you don't have fuel, or you have it at the beginning expensive fuel, then it will go down. That's the market law, which unfortunately was ignored for years by Mongolian government, and that's the situation what we have with fuel supply.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up tonight's show, Jargal. Do you have any final comments for tonight?
Let's see what's happening with fuel prices and supply next week. So we'll be very happy to see your comments, and I would like to thank you, everybody who watched our program every Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and you can also see us on the website tomorrow, jargaldefacto.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for staying with us tonight again, Mongolia, and I hope you have a good week.
Have a good
Bye-bye.